Dorian Blake, a brilliant but eccentric book hunter and self-confessed bibliomaniac, heads the small firm Blake & Associates Literary Investigations in San Francisco. From their loft-style office on Clementina Street, Dorian and his teammates track missing manuscripts, authenticate dubious discoveries, and navigate a shadow world of collectors, auction sharks, and occult bibliophiles. Each case is a mystery whose solution hinges on deep book lore, forensic bibliography, and treacherous human motives. Paper Tigers. A Codex Chronicles mystery. Starring Dorian Blake, Mira Patel, Clara Havelock, Leo Salgado. Recurring adversary Vespasian Crowe. Introducing the White Jade League, a trans-Pacific crime syndicate whose scholars forge history as ruthlessly as their enforcers spill blood. Epigraph, Shanghai, 1934. A brush may hide as many knives as a sleeve. Old Cantonese proverb, marginal note in the diary of Qin Huailok, last archivist of the Golden Dragon Tong. 1. Typhoon Preview. Hong Kong, present day. A Category 2 typhoon flirted with Victoria Harbour, whipping neon reflections into liquid calligraphy. Inside the glass tower of Dragon Gate auctions, collectors in tuxedos and chipaos murmured around vitrines, holding jade seals, opium-era silver sises, and, centerpiece of the evening, Lot 88, the Empress Scroll, a hand-painted Qing court panorama accompanied by a certificate linking it to the last Dowager Empress. Dorian Blake sipped oolong, eyes on the seal that branded the certificate. Chinatown Antiquities Exchange, San Francisco, 1937. Too neat, too exotic. He felt, rather than saw, the ghost of a forgery. At his elbow, Mira Patel flipped a loop in her palm. "Paper pH around 8, she whispered. "If that certificate is pre-war, I'm Empress Sixy." Leo Salgado, tied into Dragon Gate's guest Wi-Fi via a discreet pineapple device in his pocket, muttered, "And our old friend Mr. Vespasian just pinged the server, downloading provenance PDFs." Clara Havelock scanned the balcony. Crows somewhere above us, or someone wearing his digital skin. Either way, the battlefield's set. On the dais, auctioneer Naomi Locke rapped her mallet. "Welcome, esteemed guests. We open tonight with Lot 88 in honor of our ancestors." The White Jade League's orchid and steel greeting crew glided along the aisles, jade lapel pins catching light. They claimed to be cultural heritage investors. Blake had heard other rumors, that they bought pages of history only to rewrite them, then sold the edits to regimes who needed cleaner legacies. Tonight, the League was bidding. 2. Paddle Duel. Bidding started at 30 million Hong Kong dollars. A pearl-haired matron from Jakarta raised first. The League's envoy, tall, cadaverously polite, known only as Mr. White, countered without blink. Behind him stood 2 aides with the measured posture of retired PLA commandos. Blake lifted paddle 148 at 57 million, drawing murmurs. Mr. White's eyelids twitched. He raised by 10. Mira, low. "We can't pay that." Blake, "Never intend to. I'm fishing." At 85 million, Jakarta bowed out. Only Blake and the League remained. Naomi Locke's gavel hovered. The room held its breath. Then, from the rear, a paddle carved from sandalwood rose. Vespasian Crowe, spectacles gleaming, bid 99. Not to win, Blake realized, but to escalate the forge into obscene territory, making any later questions seem like envy. Mr. White flicked his wrist. 100 million even. Blake pretended to confer with Mira, then let silence fall. Gavel struck. The League claimed the scroll. Crowe smiled like a librarian who'd erased another index card and faded into a side corridor. 3. Forgery in the freight lift. While champagne flowed in the lounge, Clara tailed the crate. The League's aides rolled it into a freight lift bound for basement vaults. Clara, in janitor coveralls, wedged her mop bucket into the door. The taller aide glared. Clara, Cantonese, bored. Pipe burst on B2. Boss says plastic wrap your precious scroll before the humidity does. Aide, we have our own conservators. He shoved the bucket out. She slipped a Bluetooth tag inside the crate's foam before the door shut. Tag active, she murmured into mic. In Blake's ear, Leo reported, Certificate PDF lists 2 earlier owners. Hungji Bookshop, Chinatown SF, 1931, then private dealer Li Renshu, 1937. Shadow records show both businesses burned in Tong violence that year. Perfect provenance, or perfect smokescreen. Mira ran a quick swab from the glass where the scroll had rested. Trace lignin aged with coffee. Classic tea-stain trick. She stared at Blake. If the League pushes this as state gift to Beijing, faked history becomes foreign policy. Blake's pulse quickened. Then we intercept before it leaves the territory. 4. Mid-Harbour Exchange. At 2 a.m., the tag pinged on a speedboat, slicing toward an anchored container ship, Golden Phoenix. Clara, already astride a rented Zodiac, throttled after. Blake joined, Mira balancing an evidence kit, Leo tangled in antenna cables. Swells hammered hulls as they climbed a rope ladder onto the freighter's deck. Cargo cranes loomed like mechanical dragons. Tag signal pointed to a mid-hold, all rust, chemical drums, and the sick, sweet scent of star anise masking diesel. Half-light revealed Mr. White, Crowe, and an elderly woman in jade earrings, Madame Lin, rumoured matriarch of the White Jade League. The scroll lay on a packing table. Crowe held a scalpel. Crowe, Madame, you paid for authenticity. Permit me the courtesy of proof. Madame Lin, if you must carve your pound of flesh, librarian, do it quickly. Customs favours Dawn. Crowe sliced a thumbnail sliver from the certificate's seal. In a travel microscope, reagents bloomed sapphire, indicating modern synthetic binder. Crowe raised an eyebrow. Crowe, a mimicry too lazy for the League's reputation. White, icy. Your report stays in-house. We will remedy. Blake stepped from shadows. Remedy by torch, perhaps. Guns clicked. Clara drew a compact Glock. Mira uncapped a vial of chlorosolvent that turned gun oil jelly. Leo hacked the ship's intercom, voice booming Cantonese evacuation orders. Chaos erupted. Dockhands sprinted. Klaxons wailed. Crowe pocketed the microsample, slipped aft. Mr. White ordered his guards. Recover artifact. Kill the rest. Madame Ling exhaled smoke from an ivory holder. Try not to stain the parchment, gentlemen. 5. Hold fire. Crates toppled as Blake ducked behind a steel drum. Bullets ricocheted, punching star-shaped flowers in rust. Mira lobbed the solvent, one guard's rifle seized, fuming. Clara's Glock barked, sending another sprawling. Leo, above on catwalk, jammed hold lights to strobe. In the confusion, Crowe gentled the scroll into a waterproof tube and knifed a lifeboat davit rope. Tube and librarian vanished over the side. Blake cursed. He sprinted, diving off the rail into black water churned by the ship's screw. He surfaced to see Crowe clambering onto a drone tender, a sleek skiff piloted by no one. The librarian saluted and roared seaward. Mira flashed a signal from the freighter. Mr. White retreated with Madame Ling. Guards regrouped. Blake swam furiously toward the tender's foam wake, but lost ground. He watched the Codex fade into night. Only a scrap of the certificate drifted near. Ink run, edges scalloped by bullet spray. He stuffed it into his pocket. One thread remained. 6. Tong Charcoal, San Francisco, 1937. Back on land, Leo deep-dove municipal archives. Hungji Bookshop burned October 3, 1937, The same night, the Golden Dragon Tong's ledger house exploded. Newspaper microfilm blamed a rival Tong, white tigers. Only one figure survived both fires, a refugee calligrapher named Liang Haiyan, deported days later. Mira traced Liang's U.S. Bureau of Immigration file. It vanished in 1947 under sealed War Department requisition. Blake, White Jade League calls their force paper tigers. Liang's deportation file likely smuggled to Hong Kong, forged into their mythos. Clara. So we're chasing a syndicate whose birth certificate is a charcoal smear. Leo. And Crowe just gifted them a scroll to crown the legend. Clara packed firearms. Time to ruin a coronation. 7. Cat Street Bazaar. Rumor said the League would unveil the Empress Scroll in a private ceremony at Tin Hau Temple, Wan Chai, 3 nights hence. But first, they'd reseal it with a new provenance at Cat Street's underground paper market, where 60-year-old Temple Joss specialists forged everything from ancestor notes to Ming stamps. Blake and Mira, disguised as Thai antiquities traders, browsed stalls of yellow prayer papers and Mao-era ration stubs. Under a tin roof drenched in rain, they found a backroom hung with drying seals, the workshop of Uncle To, dotard forger to triads. Uncle To squinted. Empress seal? Expensive wish, daughter. Mira, Hokkien whisper. More expensive if the League learns you sold 2 in 1 week. She flashed a photo of the scroll's original fake. Your handiwork. Uncle To's lip quivered. I copy shapes, nothing more. Blake placed the charred scrap on the work table. Your cinnabar here contains microscopic titanium dioxide, 20th century additive. Crowe just exposed you. He'll silence the shop once finished. To shivered. They collect history like tigers, but fear fire. They hide next provenance in Yuet Wa Go Down. Midnight, they say. You heard nothing from me. 8. Warehouse rumble. Yuet Wa Go Down crouched at Kowloon docks, an Art Deco husk turned private vault. Clara scaled a drainage pipe, slicing window alarms. Inside, crates labeled Bamboo Flute Institute masked laser grid corridors. Leo looped cameras while Mira rigged halogen wands to reveal fresh UV ink. On a long table, they found the scroll tube beside a brand new certificate bearing Hungji Bookshop stamp, version 2. Blake whistled. Perfect. Except the bookshop fire photo they glued has a 1940 license plate. 3-year anachronism. Footsteps echoed. Mr. White and 3 paper tiger enforcers entered. Mira killed wands. Room plunged noir. White. You offend the League, Mr. Blake. Blake. Please. I offend everyone eventually. Fight snapped like brushstrokes. Clara flipped a crate onto one guard. Mira disoriented another with UV flash. Blake parried Mr. White's butterfly sword using a rolled map of hand tomb rubbings until the blade shredded parchment. Gunshot. Leo from balcony. Non-lethal beanbag round. Mr. White staggered. Guards fell. Alarm klaxons bleated. Crowe again hijacking security. Voice-over speakers. Pages burn in 30 seconds. Sprinklers erupted. Gasoline missed. Clara swore. Mira triggered her halogen wands. UV neutralized gasoline additive. Crowe's failsafe fizzled. They grabbed scroll tube. On exit, they found Mr. White conscious, bleeding. Blake offered pressure bandage. White spat blood. Scroll means nothing. League already purchased legacy. Tomorrow we unveil paper tigers in San Francisco. They will roar in every textbook. Paper tigers? White laughed. See your own city's archives. 1937 never ended. It merely waits. 9. Return to Fog City. 36 hours later, they landed at SFO under fog the color of damp ash. Blake's contact, Detective Inez Calderon, met them with grim news. San Francisco Chinatown History Museum reported a break-in. Entire Tong War collections missing. CCTV showed masked movers in uniforms of the city's archives department. One mover's gait matched Vespasian Crowe. Calderon. No alarms tripped. They walked archive boxes out the front door, signed by forged city permit. Blake. They're not stealing artifacts, they're deleting contradictions. Mira unrolled the Empress scroll under lab lights. Along one silk edge, a previously unnoticed penciled notation read, Shanghai Consulate, December 1934, paper tiger draft. And beneath, copy to LHL. Leo ran pattern search. LHL could be Liang Hai-yen, alias. He cross-referenced War Department scans, found a single memo on Project Paper Tiger describing faked propaganda leaflets printed by Chinatown gangs to sway 1930s Chinese diaspora sentiment. Blake. If the League revives those forgeries as genuine anti-imperial manifestos and ties them to the Empress Scroll, they'll rewrite who owned moral authority before W2. Imagine governments paying billions in restitution based on forged leaflets. Clara loaded magazines. And they launch tomorrow. 10. Old Street, Louis Hall. League ceremony was set where the 1937 Tong War began. Old Saint. Louis Hall, once a Baptist mission, now a gutted event space above Grant Avenue. Vespasian Crowe would present the scroll, flanked by League dignitaries, live-streamed to Beijing, Taipei, and Wall Street art boards. Blake's crew infiltrated with the museum's old archive boxes, pretending to deliver missing artifacts. Inside, banners read, Paper Tigers, the True Voices of Chinatown, 1937. Glass cases displayed the stolen leaflets, now given ornate curatorial captions. Crowe, in a charcoal three-piece, spoke into a lav mic. Tonight we return history to its rightful owners, those who suffered in silence. He saw Blake, smiled faintly. Blake whispered to Mira, stall the show. Clara, locate fire suppression. Leo, hijack stream. Clara crawled ductwork, found manifold valves. Mira slipped to the leaflet cases, swapped original forgeries with legit 1890s playbills she'd bought on eBay, and booby-trapped the display with die packs. Leo breached the hall's Wi-Fi, looped Crowe's test pattern. Crowe lifted the scroll. A relic travels farther than armies, and sometimes returns home. He unfurled parchment, only to reveal blank newsprint. Shock rippled. Crowe, quiet awe. You mimic me, Mr. Blake. Blake, consider it a citation. He held up the real scroll across the hall. Guards advanced. Clara dumped suppression foam. White clouds obscured everything. Die packs burst crimson across display glass. Mira pumped stadium lights to strobe. In confusion, Crowe approached Blake, hand slipping inside jacket. Blake braced, but Crowe withdrew, not a gun, but a memory card. Crowe, low. I play the long citation game. The League's lies are clumsy. Plant this in your stream. Show their forgery pipeline, the offshore accounts. They'll cannibalize themselves. Blake. Why help? Crowe. Because history deserves better villains. He melted into foam. Sirens approached. Calderon's task force. Madame Lin fled through a side door. Mr. White, bandaged, cursed and surrendered. 11. Silk embers. Under SFPD escort, Blake delivered the scroll to a climate vault. Forensic ink dating and Chinese State Archive cross-verification proved it 19th century at best, not imperial. The League's reputation hemorrhaged. Stock of its shell corporations crashed. Footage Leo spliced from Crowe's card revealed League forgers in Cat Street, printing leaflets under his disguised supervision. Crowe's voice on tape. The brush is mightier than the evidence locker. Public outrage finished the League in Hong Kong, yet Crowe himself escaped. 12. Paper tigers become ash. Weeks later, Blake watched demolition crews raze Old Saint. Lewis Hall, city condemned it after the Tong War artifacts came home. Dust rose like ground-level fog, curling around neon dragons of nearby shops. Mira joined, nursing coffee. The League's accounts shuttered. Madame Len vanished into Macau. Mr. White took plea. Blake fingered Crowe's raven card. Crowe fed us the rope to hang them, but he keeps the spool. Clara arrived with Chinatown historian Po Ling Ma. She gifted Blake a thin volume. Voice of the Paper Tiger, Liang Hai-yen's Lost Diary. Genuine, translated from a carbon copy Po Ling found in a missionary attic. Inside, Liang lamented how Tongs forced him to forge nationalist leaflets, calling himself a paper tiger set aflame by real ones. Blake closed the book. We can't erase the lie, but we can footnote it. 13. Epilogue. Ink Wake. In a candle-lit Macau bookshop, Vespasian Crowe scratched corrections into a ledger. The League column red-inked, his personal ledger black. He slid an envelope to a new client. Logo of a black quill over a red sun. Crowe. Provenance is wind, my friend. Shake the right branch, and old dynasties fall like brittle leaves. Outside, junk sails glided across moonlit water, paper tigers tamed for now, but elsewhere the librarian of smoke prepared another match.